You ever notice how French people, I'm talking about Jewish French people, they are like all very cliquey, right? All people who speak, Jewish people who speak French, they're very close to each other, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Baruch Hashem. So I heard this amazing story about this shliach from France. I don't know his name because he speaks French, and he says the story in French. But someone translated the story into English. It's one of the most amazing stories I heard in years. That just happened. Unbelievable story. There was a Chabad emissary in France, and he had a friend of his who was going to New York, and he had a lot of people in this community who wanted to send him a letter to the Rebbe. So he asked this guy, let's call him David. David, can you please bring everyone's letter to the Rebbe? So David had this thing in his mind that in order to present a letter to the Rebbe, this is what he thought. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Even the thoughts we have which aren't right are also by the divine providence. David had this thought that in order to present a letter to the Rebbe, it's not enough just to drop the letter off at the ohel, at the Rebbe's ohel. In order to present a letter to the Rebbe, front row seats, same price as back row seats.
I'm a back row seat kind of guy.
No problem. So in order to present this letter to the Rebbe, he has to read the letter. It's not enough just to present it and put it down. He has to read it. That's what he decided. So he tells everyone before he goes, listen, I'm taking your letters to the Rebbe, but I want to read them. Everyone's like, okay, no problem. Nothing private. Everyone's okay with that. But one lady says, no, you can't read my letter. Everyone else says, read my letter, no problem. One lady says, no, you're not reading my letter. So he says, okay, I won't read your letter. Remember, David has this thing in his head that if you want to get a blessing from the Rebbe, you actually must actually verbalize. That's what he thought. I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong that that's such a thing. The Rebbe himself, when you give the Rebbe a letter, the Rebbe read your letter at the ohel of the previous Rebbe. So it's such a thing. But obviously, that's the Rebbe's reading the letter. Either way, David felt this way very strongly. So David takes these letters, and the lady's letter included, and he reads every letter that he got. But the lady's letter, he didn't read because he told her he's not going to read it. However, he felt bad not reading her letter. So he saw someone else at the ohel. Oh, I'm not going to read the letter. I'll give it to this guy. This guy, some random guy in the street. He'll read the letter. I'll still keep her privacy. He doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know who he is. And that way the letter will be read by the Rebbe's ohel. That's what he was thinking. I'm not saying he was right. That's what he did. Okay, David gives the letter to some guy, let's call him Shmuel. Shmuel, hey, you're here, read this letter. He comes out of the ohel. Shmuel comes out of the ohel. And Shmuel says to David, do you know who gave you that letter? He says, of course. The letter was from a woman. David says, yeah, it was a woman from our community, and she said that no one should read the letter. Well, let me tell you something. The letter that she wrote was a request. She requested that she and her brother should have reconciliation. They should finally get along. After so many years of discord and frustration and argument, they should finally come back together again. So, okay. So he says, well, I'm her brother. I'm her brother.
They got Shmuel as a brother.
Shmuel was her brother. Shmuel was her brother. The random guy you found in I asked him to read the letter, that was her brother. Now, I'm just thinking about the story, and just think about the details of the story. Besides the amazing divine providence. But, can you imagine Shmuel and his sister not getting along after that? Like, they could have gone to the best therapist in the world. They could have had the best reasons in the world why they should have reconciled. But the overt divine inspiration that they saw at that moment, the miracle of Hashem, is something that any human heart would not be able to help melt from seeing. So in a similar way, sometimes we go through an event, while we're going through it, there's nothing good in the event. It's not a good thing that's happening. But on the other hand, after the event's over, it's possible to look back at the event and to discover something that you only were able to achieve because of this event. Like the previous Rebbe said this about his imprisonment. He said, if someone would give me all the money in the world, I wouldn't go back to that prison for even a moment. On the other hand, he said, if someone would give me all the money in the world, I wouldn't sell a moment in the prison either. I wouldn't sell a moment in the prison. Being in the prison was something that helped me gain a lot. I wouldn't sell one moment of being in the prison. Thank you very much. So, this week, in addition to the regular Torah portion, amazing Torah portion, Keptitisa, we also read an additional Torah portion, the Parsha of Para Aduma, of the red heifer. Read always this Torah portion before the month of Nisan. Since we have to bring the sacrifice, the Paschal Lamb, God willing, we'll bring it physically with the coming of Mashiach. So before we offer the Paschal Lamb, we have to be purified with the ashes of the red heifer. So therefore, we're reading the Torah about the red heifer, the Shabbos. Some opinions say that it's a biblical commandment, equal to the commandment to hearing the story of Amalek. There's a commandment to listen to this Torah portion, also a biblical commandment. And since it's a biblical commandment, so just like it's so important to hear the story, it's also so important to learn from the story. If we see there's such a storm, such an excitement, people have to come to shul this Shabbos.
Want a little water?
It's good for you. Thank you. I don't take from a kohen,
I'm not a kohen.
He's not a kohen.
Not yet.
All right, pass it over.
There you go.
L'chaim v'bracha. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
I had nothing to do with it.
So it's really an important thing to learn this week's Torah portion because it's something that's so important to hear. So therefore, it's also so important to have a derher, to have some kind of message from it. So we'll see in this week's Torah portion something that will give us a whole new motivation in life, a whole new way of living life, something that could really open up for us doors that weren't open before. What does the Torah say? The Torah says that if someone became ritually impure, they touched a dead body, and they have to be sprinkled with the ashes of a red heifer. There are many laws about this red heifer. It has to be completely red. It has to be something that was never used for work. It has to be an animal that never had a yoke on its back. If it has 2 white hairs or 2 black hairs, it's not kosher. So you take this red heifer and you mix it with its ashes with water, and then it's able to purify you. Rashi says this law is called a super rational law. It's something that we can understand. King Solomon said about all the super rational laws in the Torah that I was able to understand all of them except for this one. This one is beyond me. This law is something I can't understand. So Rabbi Shulman Levi says that what's so hard to understand about this mitzvah? What's the depth of this mitzvah? It says like this. Rabbi Shulman Levi says in Parshas Emor, Hashem told Moshe all the laws of ritual impurity. And when he got up to the laws of a person who touched a dead body, Moshe Rabbeinu looked at Hashem and he said, Hashem, if someone touches a dead body, how can they possibly become pure? And Hashem was quiet. Hashem didn't answer. And Moshe Rabbeinu, at that point, when Hashem didn't answer him, his face turned dark. Moshe Rabbeinu's face naturally was so luminous that you couldn't look at his face. But when he heard that this person had touched a dead body, and Hashem wasn't telling him a way for him to become pure, Moshe Rabbeinu's face became dark. The word tameh, or impure, is related to the word atum. Atum means closed off. Some people are closed off from living. They're not in touch with their soul. They're not in touch with life. They don't have a connection to God, to life, they're just closed up. They're I don't know if the word recluse is the right word, but even if they're not a recluse, but they're just not alive. So how can someone who is like this, someone who's totally closed up from his soul, totally not in touch, how can he free himself from the chains that he shackled himself with? How could he get out of the shackles that he himself imprisoned himself with? So to answer this, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, this week's Torah, the additional Torah portion, the Para Aduma. And Hashem said, this is how they'll be purified. And Moshe Rabbeinu looks at Hashem and says, how does this work? How does this help? And Hashem says, there's a decree before me, you can't understand it, this is the way it is. What this means is like this. What the spiritual meaning of this is like this. You meet a Jew, and the Jew looks to you like there's nothing at all, no redeeming factor in this person's life. You can't see anything good in this person. You see that they're totally submerged, hook, line, and sinker, in things which aren't good. And you can't see any sensitivity, any spirituality, any light in this person. So what does Moshe Rabbeinu feel? Moshe Rabbeinu feels terrible. His face turns dark. And so too, we're supposed to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. We're supposed to also not just take this lying down. You meet somebody who was the light in their eyes has darkened. You're not allowed to stand by. Moshe Rabbeinu's face is shocked. Moshe Rabbeinu was shocked. How could this happen? So it's similar things supposed to happen to us. When you meet someone and you're not supposed to just like be apathetic. Okay, move on. Okay, this person just cancel them. It has to touch you. It has to bother you. You meet someone and they're totally not in touch, totally disconnected. They're like spiritually dead. That should bother you. So what's the way to get purified? How does this person get purified? Person who is spiritually dead, how they get purified? So what does the Torah say? Take the ashes and you mix the ashes with water. What are ashes? Ashes represent the end of something. You have the object, you have a house, a burnt house. What's a burnt house? Burnt house is the end of the house. It was a house, it was built, there were dreams, there was ideas, there was a vision. Now the house is burnt. The house isn't...
It's carbon.
Okay, thank you. All right. So these ashes represent the end of something. The water, on the other hand, water represents life. Water represents, as it says in the opposite of Nassim, there are 10 things that are called life. One of them is water. Water is called life. When a person is born, the 75% of every cell is water. 85% of the cells in our brain are water. Milk, which is the first liquid that a baby drinks, and most of his development is through something which is predominantly water. When we're born, we're enveloped in water. So how do we connect water, which is all about life, with ashes, which are all about the opposite of life? The answer is like this. How are you able to become a whole new being? How are you able to become a whole new person? So, in the beginning of the Torah, it says Hashem made one thing, and this was like his favorite thing, it seems. Because this was the best thing he made. What was the best thing Hashem made? Anybody know? I think he said this was the best thing he made. Tov Ma'od. Oh, very good. Excellent. Hashem said the angel of death. The angel of death is Tov Ma'od. The Yitzhak Tov, the good inclination, he says it was good. The bad inclination, the angel of death, Hashem says, fantastic. What's so fantastic with the angel of death? Well, we don't think of the angel of death as someone we want to meet anytime soon, right? So what does that mean? The answer is like this. If we want to evaluate something that's going on in our life, we want to see, is this right or is this wrong? A lot of times we get hypnotized by the world. The world hypnotizes us. And we look at things that are really small, and it doesn't seem very big. There was an elderly man who looked back in his life and he said, I feel like I'm in an airplane. All the things I thought of when I was 20 and 30 and 40, and these are the most important things in life, I feel like I'm in an airplane. You know, when you're in the world, when you're on Earth, touching the ground, you look at these houses and these mountains look huge. You go on an airplane, all these things before like mountains, they look like ants. So when you're looking at your life and you're in your life and going on, when things are going on as you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, or your 60s, or 70s, or 80s, the Mendel Morozov used to say, you think when you turn 80 and 90, the fire goes away? He said, I tell you, it doesn't go away. You get caught up. What's the antidote? So the answer is, you have to look at the ashes. You look at the way things are after, look at the angel of death. You look at the angel of death, you look at the way things are after your life, and you ask, looking back from that position after your life is over, and you ask yourself, is this really important? So it says in the Torah, Zeh Sefer Tolos Adam. This is the book, the Chronicles of Men. Everyone has a book. What books are the best books? Who writes the best books? The angel of death writes the best books. When you look at what you're leaving after yourself, you say, do I want to look back on my life and say I did this or I didn't do this? So the best way to know if you should or you shouldn't do something right now is how will you feel at the end of your life that you put energy into this. A lot of us carry a lot of baggage. We carry anger, we carry frustration, we carry anxiety, we carry jealousy, we carry cruelty, we carry insensitivity. And people who, at the end of their life, they did a study, what people think about when at the end of their life. They think, I may have spent too much time trying to make money. May have spent too much time with carrying all of these negative energy things, which got me sick. It's possible you carry a lot of stuff with you, and at the end of your life, you're like, why was I carrying? I could have just let go. I could have forgiven. I could have let go. And the kind of book you write, You want to know what decision you should make? Ask the angel of death. Look at the writer. He's the best author of your book. Look how you scale 1 to 10. How would he grade this? Is something worthwhile, not worthwhile? That's how you make a very good book. It sounds not so Hasidic, or Baruch is thinking. So let's say this in a Hasidic way. The Hasidic way is the end of days, as it's referred to in the Torah, as the coming of Mashiach. After Mashiach comes, look at all the things that we were thinking about now. I think it's really important. After Mashiach comes in a split second, we look at all these things at the end. Are these things really important? We're not going to think of these things so important. There was this boy named Omer who hurt his leg, and he
Who heard what?
I missed your text. I'm giving the show. You wanted to say something?
No, who heard what? I'm sorry.
He hurt his leg.
Oh, okay.
He hurt his leg, and he went to the hospital, and he was unconscious, and he heard his doctors talking to each other. One doctor says to the other, "That poor guy, he's so young, he only has a month to live." So Omer leaves the hospital, and he's thinking, "Well, I have a month to live. What should I do with this month I have to live?" And he started spending time with his wife and with his son and with his daughter, and trying to give them all the love and all the time and all the attention. And he started spending time davening and all things he never did spend time before. And he comes back to the hospital a month later, and the doctor examines him. He says, "Omer, your leg, it's all good." He says, "Doctor, tell me the truth. I can handle. Tell me the truth." He says, "No, you're fine." He said, "I heard you. One doctor say the other doctor." You misunderstood, Omer. The one doctor was telling the doctor with the patient before you. You're fine. Omer was so excited. He says, "What did he get?" He got tears in his eyes. He got life all of a sudden. There was this boy who studied for his bar mitzvah with some Chabad rabbi, and he didn't just learn how to read the Torah. He learned about being Jewish, and he wanted to go to Jewish school. He was in a school, not Jewish public school, and he wanted to go to a Jewish school. So he tells his mom, "Please, I want to go to Jewish school." All right. So imagine you're 13 years old, 14 years old. You want to go to 8th grade in Cheder Menachem, right? Imagine kids go to Cheder Menachem. You want to go to Cheder Menachem. All right. So you go to Rabbi Greenbaum. What's Rabbi Greenbaum going to say? Do you know how to read Hebrew? No. Do you know how to read Chumash? No. You know Mishnayos? No. How's he going to fit into Cheder Menachem in 8th grade? So you went to one school, and the principal doesn't feel right to say no. He says, "Well, maybe try a different school. This school, I'm not sure it's going to work for you." You go to a second school, and to a third school, and to a fourth school. And his mother finally says to him, "Listen, my son, it's a very noble idea you want to be in a Jewish school, but we're going to one more school and that's it." They go to the next school, and the principal tests the boy, and he says to him exactly the same thing that everybody else said to him. "It's a very nice thing, but I don't think we have a place for you here. I don't think we can help you here." The boy says, "No problem. I want to ask you something. Can you please give me a letter on the school letterhead that says that you can't accept me?" So the principal's wondering, "Why, you want to take me to court? You want to sue me? I'm not obligated to give you a letter." He says, "No, it's not nothing to do with the court." He says, "After 120 years, I'm going to go before the heavenly court, and they're going to ask me, why didn't you learn about your roots? Why don't you keep Torah mitzvahs? So I want to have this letter to show to the court and to say to them, you know why? Look at this. They weren't able to accept. I wanted to. They weren't able to accept it." So the principal said to him, "You have a father in heaven. You have a father on earth. I'm going to be your father. Come to my house." He took him into his house, and he said, "You're going to go to our school, and after school, I'm going to learn with you." And Baruch Hashem, this boy, he developed in the school amazingly, and he became a prominent rabbi in Israel. This message the boy said wasn't just a smart thing. It was he gave the principal a dialogue with his autobiographer or biographer, the angel of death. When the principal heard about death, all of a sudden we'll make the right decision about life. And when we hear the story also, what does it make us think? It makes us think about the decisions we're making. But again, it's not just about death, it's also about the coming of Mashiach. When we think about where we're going in a moment to Yerushalayim, we see Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Sarah, Rivka, Rachel and Leah and Kim and all those who passed away. It's going to, just thinking about that, it just makes you look at your life in a whole different way. It makes you make decisions in a whole different way. And this is the idea of the ashes and the water. Water represents life. What creates the life? It's the ashes. The ashes create the life. It's specifically when we're looking at the end of our lives that makes us think about how we're living. It gives us a whole different way of living. It makes us live in a very good way. There is a beautiful teaching of the Klei Yakar, Chaim. Kli Yakar says this. We'll get to Kli Yakar. Baruch, you with me?
I'm very with you. Tell me about the Kli Yakar.
Can I tell you something before I get to Kli Yakar?
Huh?
Before I get to Kli Yakar, Hashem tells every person to choose life. What's Hashem telling you? Hashem is telling you, you have the ability to let go of the shackles that you're in, and you're able to open yourself up and to be in touch with real life. You don't have to be the way holding all the stuff in your hands and your heart and your mind. You're able to choose life. I'm saying, I want you to choose life. There was a tzaddik named Rabbi Shimon Chananya, and he was killed by the Romans, and he was burnt alive. He was holding a Sefer Torah when he was burnt alive, and his students saw he was gazing out while he was dying, and the Romans are torturing him, and he is just gazing out. And the students said, "What do you see?" He says, "I see that the parchment is burning, but the letters are floating in the air." The parchment means the physical body, the physical things are burning, but the good things that we do in this world, they stay on forever. The inspiration you gave to another person, the kindness you give to another person, the good you did for another person, that stays on and never ends. That's what Yehuda Nasi meant when he said, before he passed away, he said, "I need my children." What he meant was, the children, the impact we have in this world, it stays on, it never stops. There's another meaning also with the water and the ashes. Water represents the Torah, and the ashes represent negative things. If we see in ourselves that we have an attraction to the negative things, or mistakes we made in our life, it's specifically from those mistakes that we made, that only from the mistakes that we made, we're able to have a whole new birth. Like I was saying before about the gap between the way we are living and the way we want to live. What makes you stop and think and say, "Oh, I want to do something else"? Very often it's a big mistake. Like, let's say you imagine right now. Imagine, close your eyes for a second. Imagine you discover right now, I didn't put on film today, right? All of a sudden, you didn't put on film today. All of a sudden, there's be a lot of water on top of the ashes. Sometimes the Torah says to put the ashes on top of the water. And then it says to mix them. Sometimes it's the ashes that creates the water. It's the mistakes that create the new opportunities and new living. Last thing I want to tell you is the Kli Yakar. Ready, Baruch? The Kli Yakar. It's powerful. You sure you can hear the Kli Yakar? Okay, here we go.
No, I can't, but I'll hear it.
All right. The Kli Yakar says this. The Kli Yakar says, one of the things about the red heifer that's beyond logic and reason is that anyone who's involved in creating the red heifer, if you were involved in slaughtering the red heifer and gathering the ashes, creating it, you became impure. If you were involved, however, the one who got sprinkled by those ashes becomes pure. So it's beyond logic and reason. Does it make you pure or does it make you impure? Which one does it do? The Yakar says like this, amazing. He says ashes represent the opposite of life, opposite of goodness, opposite of purity. Water represents purity. Hashem made the world in a way that opposites are attracted to each other. How is electricity created? Electricity is created through positive and negative. How is a family created? Through a husband and wife. How are the planets and the whole astronomy created? It's created through the two opposing forces. How is a day created? Night and dark meet each other. So in a similar way, the ashes, the impurity, it wants to latch onto something. Who does it latch onto? It latches onto the opposite. Who does the water latch onto? The water latches onto the opposite. So the person who is impure, the water connects to him, and therefore he gets purified. And the one who is pure before, who does he connect to? He connects to the ashes, and he becomes impure. In order for something to become impure, if you have an apple, in order for the apple to be able to become impure, it has to first touch water. The opposite of holiness always attaches itself to things which are holy. The Gemara says, whoever who is greater has a greater Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara doesn't attack non-Jews, it attacks Jews. The Yetzer Hara doesn't attract regular people, it attacks more the Chachamim, the ones who are greater. The Gemara says these words, whoever is greater has a greater Yetzer Hara. So if you find in yourself that you're making big mistakes, that means you have a connection to something pure. That means something good going on inside of you. It's specifically the fact that you have some purity in you, that there's something impure trying to get you. And it's okay, I'm going to put you to sleep. I'm going to finish with this. Bottom line is like this.
You can't win. You just can't win.
By the way, why do you need the ashes too? If according to Kli Yakar, you just need the water. The water is what makes you pure. So why do you need the ashes? Because only if you know about your mistakes, only if you know you have ashes, can you become pure. If you don't know you have ashes, you don't know if you have problems, you can never become pure. Wendell Futterfas said about the Yetzer Hara, he says, his teacher said, I could take the Yetzer Hara and put him in a chair and lock him up. And the Futterfas says, I can't lock him up, but I know when there's a voice in me that's coming from the opposite of holiness. Only if you know you have an Yetzer Hara can you possibly become pure. But anyways, bottom line is this. What is supposed to take what are the four things we're learning tonight? Number one is we're learning that Moshe Rabbeinu's face becomes darkened when he sees a Jew who is cut off, who's closed, who's not in touch with the life. He doesn't stand by when he sees that. He can't stand by. Number two, it's the ashes. And looking at the end of our lives, and looking at the coming of Mashiach, looking at the end result, it can purify us now, make us live a pure life. And number three, pure water comes specifically from the ashes. It's specifically from our mistakes they're able to grow. Number four, if you find a negative tendency in you, you find that you're attracted to the wrong thing, it's a sign that you have water. Because where does evil try to attach itself to? Specifically to someone who has purity. Because we have a neshama, because we have holiness in, because we have such potential to accomplish, that's why the Yetzer Hara tries specifically to infiltrate us, because they have so much to give. So Hashem should help us all. We should be free from all of this tumah, all of them to cut us off from who we're meant to be, who we can be, and think about where we want to get to in a moment, coming Mashiach, and get there. Any questions or comments? Yes?
It's interesting that you prefaced the shir at the beginning, say you cannot understand the torah, so you're trying to explain it. I'm a little bit perplexed.
You know, the Rebbe once said about this. He says, you look at the Hasidic meaning of the Parah Aduma, you wonder why is it a chayk? You wonder why is it called super rational? That's what you said. You wonder how come it's considered super rational when it could be explained. On one occasion, the Rebbe said this. In the exercise of trying to make another person pure, when you're becoming impure, who does that? Who would go and give up of themselves to help someone else out? A Kohen, a Baruch. Someone who is getting in touch with the essence of Torah. In order to be able to do that, you have to get in touch with the essence of Torah. It's this super rational devotion to each other that we have to each other as Jews that puts us in touch with the essence of Torah. It's super rational. It's not can be explained.
Well, I would actually say it's very interesting. I do believe when I'm preaching to someone who may be impure, a holy person, and they get contaminated, that is the beauty of stepping down. Like even the Kohen Gadol who does the ritual, not only the process of making the farbrengen, we're talking about